TF2 is a game that I actually have very little time spent in when it comes to the PC. No, my time with the game was back on the old 360 with the orange box. A perfect package of games to get for the price at the time. With its cartoony style and it being the only multiplayer feature, really had it stand out from all the other parts in the box. But as time moved on, it was clear to see that the console version would seriously fall behind its PC counterpart. I didn't have a PC of my own at the time, so I moved on to play other newer games like the COD series and even more Valve stuff like Left 4 Dead 2. But the thing that always caught my attention was that TF2 would always get new weapons and ability changes and balance changes. And then when YouTube kicked off, I got to see all the different loadouts and skill kills people would upload and talk about. I think it's neat then and now because for a game that came out in 07 and got its last update in like 2018, people are still talking and discussing it to its core. And one of the funnier things I've seen everyone talk about is new weapons or new balances to old ones. And since I have no idea how to balance anything, I thought we'd go the opposite route and make some cool new weapons for these guys. I can't really say if anything would be good or balanced or hell even original, but I tried nonetheless to make one new weapon or piece of equipment for each merc. I think the easy way to do this is to start from one end and work our way over. So let's start with the only guy who could start a fight in an empty room, the Scout. So for Scout, the first thing that comes to my mind is sports. Probably because of the baseball bat, I'm assuming, so I thought of something sporty. Cleats, like, soccer or football cleats. I thought taking away his secondary and giving him the ability to jump on people would be really cool, but that seemed a little too similar to the man treads. So I wanted to try and give some perks and cons that would cater more to the Scout. So we can keep a good bit of the man tread features like the reduction in push force and a slight air blast immunity, but maybe make his fall damage multiplier smaller, maybe just 2x rather than 3 since he's a smaller guy than the soldier. As well as maybe reducing his overall running speed by maybe, 10 or 15% to give him a little bit more of a downside. And finally, the cleat should increase his jump height. I was thinking no lower than maybe 30%, that way he can compete against the winger. I also like the idea of this thing synergizing with the atomizer, allowing for more parkour-like abilities. And if they ever become popular enough, maybe we could get a reskin of them as shell shoes from the Portal series. I think those would look good on Scout if I do say so myself. And since we're stealing ideas from the soldier, how about we move on to my idea for that crazy veteran? I personally think Soldier has the perfect overall variety when it comes to his weapons and equipment. So he was one of the last mercs I thought of an idea for. I thought of a new launcher called the Dirty Bomber or something to that nature. It's a launcher that would have rockets on a timer that would, if timed right, would explode before impact on the target area. And instead of causing massive explosive damage, it would instead create an AoE of a whole assortment of stuff, like causing a gas cloud that caused afterburn, maybe giving the frightened status effect for a short time, maybe like 3 seconds, and lastly an EMP effect on all engineered buildings. Now that does sound overpowered, but that's because I'm taking away most of the explosive damage by like maybe 70 to 80%, that seems fair. Plus you would lose the ability to rocket jump like normal, as well as affecting yourself with all those conditions. I feel like those two things alone would deter anyone from using this thing, but that was the only idea I had that would shake up this already perfect armory the soldier has. Pyro, what some think is the easiest class to use. You just fire while moving forward and remember to air blast once in a while. I'm gonna be honest, I thought of a more fun idea for this guy, lady, alien. Whatever the pyro is, I gave it a simple idea. The freezer burn. A souped up blower that shoots harmful ice instead of fire. From what I've researched, pyros are slightly immune to other pyros attacks, so this would be the one weapon that bypasses that completely, or maybe it does increase damage just to pyros. Also, I like the idea of this thing having an alt fire that shoots snowballs instead of air blasting, just to make it a bit more different. Maybe the snowballs are slow moving projectiles, but when you get a crit, it becomes an icicle that flies super fast. The only real part I'm tossed up on is does it do afterburn like the other throwers or not? Like we could say the ice is frozen petrol, but I like the idea of it not doing afterburn at all, I think. What do you all think? Let me know down in the comments below. Demoman and Soldier are the best of friends, and you can tell cause Demo is the other merc that I had a hard time making a weapon for. Cause his kit is pretty perfect for what he's trying to do. So I went weird again and decided to give him his own sci-fi gun. I couldn't really think of a name for this one, so I'd appreciate any ideas from y'all. But the idea though is that it would be a primary launcher that when fired would shoot like an orb grenade that would try and pull enemies together. And then after a certain time it would explode, causing damage and pushing everyone in different directions. And it would probably do additional damage to buildings as well, I feel. And I haven't talked much about clip sizes and stuff like that, but this idea seems kinda overpowered and annoying, so it would probably only have a clip of like 2 with maybe 4 in reserve, plus have no ability to restock with ammo piles or dispensers, only with the lockers I think. This one seems a bit overpowered if you ask me, but maybe with some tweaking it could be made more balanced, or maybe I should just think of a whole new idea for the demo man, maybe something for the demo night, who knows. We have reached the man that got this whole idea started. The heavy is as basic as it comes, even more than the pyro some would say. But one thing I always loved was the idea of using the heavy without his minigun, the fat scout idea. So I wanted to add on to that, but I also wanted to create a new subclass that I'm calling Nurse Heavy, because I want to give him a primary food item. I know, not the most original idea, but I think this will sound cool if you just give me a moment. I call this new idea the drum barrel. In universe, maybe Heavy takes one of his old minigun drums and converts it into a keg full of booze that he can chug while on the battlefield. So what's the difference besides it being in the primary slot instead of the secondary, you ask? Let me tell you. Instead of just healing, it can overheal. I also think letting it give you mini crits for about, I don't know, maybe 10 seconds or so sounds really fun. And it has an all-fire that has Heavy splash it around Super Bowl style, causing an AoE that when splashing whoever, friends or foes, gives them a bit of health and maybe mini crits for a short time, maybe about only 4 seconds though. Now that sounds like a lot of good, but let's talk about the downsides. First, having this thing out greatly reduces the Heavy speed. Like maybe I'm thinking 50 to 60%. It'll take a long time to consume, like maybe 6 seconds, leaving you open to all types of attacks. And lastly, it takes a lot of time to recharge. I'm thinking like 40 to 50 seconds, or maybe even having it be an item that you have to charge up by doing damage over time. But in the grand scheme of things, I think it's good since you're also losing the minigun, so it should be a little bit more overpowered. And like I said at the start, it would help out the Fat Scout subclass, but it also makes a new subclass called the Nurse Heavy. Imagine Heavy going with this and a lunchbox secondary item, and just supporting his team the best way he can. That sounds really funny to me. I didn't want to mess with any of the engineer's shotguns or wrenches. He has a huge sprawl of those items, and I felt adding onto that would just clutter things up. And the idea of giving him more buildings seemed a bit played out, because I think most people go for that. They either give him jump pads or speed ramps and stuff like that. So I looked at his secondaries and realized he didn't have many of those, so I worked on an idea for that. Engineer only has one pistol and some reskins for it, so I thought of making him a new pistol type. I call it the Sentry Pistol, or the Hand Sentry. That sounds a little bit better. Much like the real Sentry, when fired it will lock onto the nearest opponent and pretty much aim and shoot itself. Just point in a general direction and it'll find a target. Plus maybe it could randomly fire a small rocket every now and then. And also no need to reload, it carries all its ammo in one clip. But now the downsides, it does have a reduced ammo capacity. I'm thinking only having 150 total compared to the stock's 212. And then also maybe take the base damage down to, I don't know, maybe 13 instead. Also I like the idea that the pistol can't shoot disguise spies. So if you notice one, you either have to use a different weapon or wait for him to drop cloak or undisguise himself. I feel this pistol will be good for engineers who want to focus on their buildings and not be distracted by all that pesky aiming nonsense. And it'd be fun to see how many weird trick shots you could actually get with this weapon. Medic is a support class, which means he should be helping by buffing his teammates. But I feel that means also when he's not doing that, he should be making the opposing team feel unsupported by nerfing them. I also like the idea of the weapons being medical themed, so I'm giving him a Plague Doctor's cane. A melee that on hit not only causes bleeding to all that are struck by it, but also marks for death the last 3 people he hit with it. I know that marking for death kinda stinks with the Fan of War, but I think having the number of marks be 3 instead of just 1 boosts it just a little bit, and it makes sense that Medic can do that since he's a doctor. I wanted to have reach, but maybe about just 50% or so, just because it's a walking cane and those are pretty long. And the big downsides I have are a 25 to 35% damage reduction and a slow pull-out speed. Again, it's a cane, probably not the easiest thing to pull out of your back pocket or wherever the mercs carry all their stuff. This is probably another more simple idea of mine, but that's because the medic's primary is already taken up by one of the most perfect weapons there are, and I couldn't really think of anything to do new with the medi guns, so I didn't really want to mess with those too much.
Oh, that looks good.
When I was making this idea, I looked it up and found out many other people actually have the same idea for sniper. That's not going to stop me from sharing this melee idea with you guys, because it is a good weapon idea, but it did stop me from looking up future ideas just so I wouldn't get discouraged from making this video. I and many others think that snipers should get a blow stick melee weapon. A simple melee that has an alt fire that shoots a blow dart out. In my head, it would do bleed damage, to signify that it's a poison dart, and maybe cause slowing. That'd be kinda cool. Its downsides would be a slow swing speed and a slow equip pullout. There's not much left to say really, because it seems like the community already has a general idea of what this is. I just kind of took it and put my own spin on it, I think, just a little. So let's move on from the merc that's always too far away to the merc that's always just a little bit too close behind you.
Gentlemen?
You can take this as a bonus, because originally I was going to say throwing knives for the spy. Instead of a gun, he would get maybe 3 or 4 knives, that way he could backstab from a distance. And I was ready to go with that, but then I had the thought of a way better idea. A new building for him that I'm going to call the Scrambler. So instead of zapping and disabling the engineer's equipment, it would instead turn them neutral. So it would allow all parties to use the teleporters and dispensers and stuff like that, all without giving the warning to the engineer, though it would be really obvious to see if he so happened glanced at any of his equipment. So the obvious downside is you can't destroy buildings, but you can make them work for you and your crew. But my big idea for this sentry is it would turn it hostile to everyone, including its own maker. This one would obviously have to give the alert just to make it a little fair for everybody. And I love the idea that the only way to stop it is for the engineer or the home wrecker pyro to deal with the zapper, or just have everyone try and destroy a sentry that's gone rogue. I think this idea is devilishly evil and way funner than just some throwing knives.
Big problem. All right, who's ready to go find this spy?
Right behind you.
So those are my wild and kind of out there ideas for the TF2 mercs. I can't wait for someone who actually knows what they're talking about to stumble upon this video and tear it apart. Or if anyone watching gets inspired and actually wants to see if these ideas could work, let me know. I'd like to see what happens. Until the countdown timer responds me, I've been Dirk Dogma. Happy April Fool's Day.